Well, to quote John Locke from Lost, that's not what was supposed to happen. However, even with our recent losses, and even with all of our team's injuries, we are still going into the playoffs, and we are still the 13-time NFL champion Green Bay Packers. And the Pack have a game to play even before getting ready for the playoffs. So much to talk about with you on this regular season finale preview of your Packers Fan Podcast.
What's happening, Packers faithful? I'm Scott Clark from the Gaming Outsider. Not gonna lie, it's been a rough week. Despite clinching the playoffs, it's getting really difficult to be positive about the Packers' chances in the postseason. I think this week isn't so much a podcast as a therapy session. And speaking of, the doctor, as they say, is in.
I am Wayne Henderson, and I am continually reminding myself how the Packers were the last seed when they last won the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, and we have a chance to rest and revitalize all of our injured players before the playoffs. So, on this episode 338 of Your Packers Fan Podcast, we've got the highlights, there were some, and lowlights from the Packers' loss to the Ravens. And as tradition dictates, we'll be sharing more of your great listener feedback.
Also, our Packers wrap up the regular season in Minnesota this week. We'll preview that matchup, and that will include my keys to a Packers victory over the Vikings. But let's go and talk about the Ravens game. What a brutal loss this was. I kept feeling like we had a chance here and there, and then it just got away with us. But starting with the positives, the leaders from the game. Malik Willis, again, was the leading passer and rusher in this game. 18 for 22 pass attempts for 288 yards, one touchdown, and a passer rating of 134.6. Pretty outstanding passer rating there. As for the rushing side, he had 9 carries for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns, Wayne.
Yeah.
Malik Willis is the real deal. Receiving, Christian Watson had 5 catches for 114 yards and a touchdown. And on defense, Quay Walker, 13 tackles for 6 all by himself, and then 1 sack as well. All right, before we get into the actual specific highs and lows, let's talk about the opening drives. First off, on defense, Derrick Henry on this opening drive just ran all over the Green Bay defense. They had an opportunity to hold him at a field goal thanks to a penalty, but then the Ravens converted on 3rd and 6. Henry wound up scoring on our colander defense, as my brother referred to it. And that entire drive was 75 yards, and the Packers looked like it was already the fourth quarter in terms of being gassed. Ravens started by drawing first blood, leading 7-0. Then the opening offensive drive, first play of the series, Love throws a 40-yard pass to Dobbs, but it's called back for offensive pass interference, rightly so. There was another false start penalty on the next play, making it 2nd and 20. And then there's an answer with a 39-yard pass to Christian Watson for a touchdown to tie the game. I was feeling pretty solid at this point. Like that, what a quick answer, especially those awful penalties. Again, rightly so. But it's just so frustrating to come out the gate with 2 penalties, but then boom, 39-yard pass, Christian Watson. Welcome back, Mr. Watson.
Indeed. We had plenty of hope and faith at that point. The Green Bay Packers made a huge statement, I thought, inside the 2-minute warning of the first half. With only a handful of seconds left before halftime, the Packers started on their own 24-yard line, and thanks to some fundamental football that I know Scott loves, and a face mask penalty on Dobbs that almost wasn't called, the Packers started moving the ball consistently. Willis ran one himself out of the shotgun for 22 yards into the red zone to close the gap. The only thing I didn't like about the drive was how little time it gave our defense to rest and get ready to go back out there again. But we'll take the points. We were still trailing 20-14, but keeping it close.
And, it took almost till the 2-minute mark of the third quarter, but Willis did it again. This was a very impressive drive from the 14-yard line. We did get lucky with an offside penalty that gave us a first down, but outside of that, Willis just looks cool and composed, man, and he had plenty of time in the pocket for most of this game, if I'm being honest. And much like the previous score, Willis went around on the right to run it in for an 11-yard score this time. Baltimore was still leading at this point, 27-24, but that gap seemed much more manageable at this point. And again, feeling pretty good at this point. And that's the end of the highlights of this game, fortunately.
Yes, because the highlights were as brief and quick as many of our drives. The first low light that I have is the Packers continuing to have difficulties against the run in the second quarter. It looked like they might make a goal line stance and were able to keep Henry out of the end zone on second down. But on third down, he just kind of wandered in there almost completely untouched. And to make matters worse, Riley was carted off the field with an injury. Yet another one for the Packers. The Ravens were at this point 14-7. And I know that the Ravens apparently wanted this game more than us because they knew that they had to win to keep their playoff hopes alive. And
Correct.
we were already in. We just wanted to have a chance at the division. But Derrick Henry, he saved my fantasy team from being last place. But
and just it's kind of just crazy. Like we didn't want this game nearly as much, but it's just still very frustrating, especially after the Bears lost last night. You know what I mean? The fact that they got beat by the 49ers, and if we had won, we would have come down to 1 week of potentially still having that title, and it's just not going to happen. Very frustrating. Then came the most frustrating thing of this entire game. This was the absolute stupidest call I've ever seen Matt LaFleur do. For whatever reason, he decided to go for it on 4th down on the Packers' own 35-yard line. This was just insane to me. Absolutely insane. This is right after they failed to convert on 3rd and inches the play before. And if I'm not mistaken, weren't they like running a running play out of the shotgun?
probably.
I know that people have issues with the tush push, but come on, man, just like sneak one in there for a couple inches. You know what I mean? It's very frustrating. Anyway, the Ravens took over and began driving right away. The defense did stop them on 3rd down inside the red zone at least, but the lead was extended by 2 scores at this point. So the Ravens were leading 17-7 at this point.
Yeah, I don't know why Matt LaFleur chose this point in the game to channel his inner Dan Campbell.
Yeah, right.
It was like, am I looking at the screen wrong? This doesn't look right. On the very next drive after that, the Packers center snapped the ball into the face mask of Malik Willis. The ball hit the ground, and a Raven pounced on it. Baltimore took over just outside of the red zone, and thankfully the defense held them to a field goal, Baltimore leading 20-7. But I'm like, it's not rocket science. There's no reason to hike the ball that high.
Yeah. Just kind of crazy. I actually made the comment while we were watching the game. Am I watching the NFL or am I watching Benny Hill? Because it just was really feeling like that. Anyway, right after a huge offensive statement inside the 2-minute warning I mentioned earlier, the Green Bay defense lets Baltimore march all the way down the field to extend the lead. The defense truly just looked like they had given up. Baltimore had 3 timeouts and a solid running game. Surprise, surprise, they gave it to Henry, who scored, twisting the knife even further. Baltimore's leading 27-14.
And the offense can put up all the points they want, but it usually isn't enough if the defense just keeps letting the Ravens answer. The Ravens' first drive in the 4th quarter was just dominant. We had multiple opportunities to stop them on 3rd down, but no. And Huntley threw one to Flowers at the goal line, which he extended the score. The Ravens were leading 34-24. Things were starting to look dire.
Yeah, every time I feel like we're within reach, the defense just gives up. It was just an absolute frustrating defensive showing, which is crazy because I feel like our defense has been our strong point of the season. Like every time the defense is doing well, the offense can't score. Now the offense has clicked it and the defense can't keep the Ravens from scoring. It's just, can we get some consistency, please? It drives me nuts. Then Malik Willis walks to the locker room in the 4th quarter, despite not being touched on the play. Clayton Tune, who I've never heard of before, takes over and throws an interception on the second play. Was not a perfect pass, but it really wasn't Tune's fault either. Bo Melton missed a relatively easy catch and tipped it into the defender's hands. Baltimore takes over on their own 32-yard line. It just was like, could this get any worse? So many things going on in this situation.
It was frustrating and just bad, and we had just have too many injuries. And they had said that Josh Jacobs could potentially be our emergency quarterback, but he couldn't even be a serviceable running back because of his injury. So we had to pull Tune up from the practice squad. Welcome to the team. I have a feeling he's going to be playing again next week. Let the chips fall where they may. To add insult to injury, Derrick Henry ran his 4th touchdown of the night. The Packers just at least looked like they had given up. 216 yards, 4 touchdowns. Derrick Henry now has more 200-yard plus games as a running back than any other player in NFL history, ahead of even Adrian Peterson and O.J. Simpson. Final score, Packers lose 41-24. Oh, well.
Oh, it hurts, man.
It does hurt, but you know what, Scott? It didn't, at least for me, hurt as bad as losing to the Bears the week before.
No, I didn't feel sick to my stomach waking up the next day.
Yeah, it just hurt because of all the lost opportunities. But what can you do? Now, we do have our weekly poll question, at least as long as the season lasts. We posted in our Facebook group at PackersCommunity.com as well as on X at Packers Fan Pod shortly after the game is done. Now, this week, for a variety of reasons, I posted a different question in the Facebook group than what I did on X. Mostly because on X, you just don't have enough room to really put this detailed of information out there. So in the Facebook community group, I got to give thanks to Dan Dyler for the question and poll options. What was the most difficult part from the loss? Was it the fact that the loss eliminates the Packers from winning the division? Was it the realization that our defense is obliterated due to multiple injuries, or that it hurt most because we're backing into the playoffs with a 3 or 4 game losing streak?
I mean, this is an easy answer. Back into the playoffs with that losing streak. You know, we've lost 3 in a row now between Denver, Chicago, and now Baltimore. And we run the risk of losing to Minnesota to go into the playoffs with losing 4 in a row. Granted, it doesn't matter, but that's just a momentum killer and doesn't do a whole lot for morale. So that's going to be my choice. How about you?
For me, I actually think it's the realization that our defense is just obliterated due to multiple injuries. I mean, for a couple of weeks after the Micah Parsons injury, we kind of held things together. I don't know what happened this past week, why we were no longer holding things together, but that's what happened. But the votes, 73% of the voters in the Facebook community group with you, Scott, backing into the playoffs with the 3 or potentially 4 game losing streak is bad. 15% with the realization our defense is obliterated, and 12% went with the fact that the loss eliminates us from having a chance at winning the division. So we appreciate all of your votes. And the question I shared over on X is basically, since we're going to be the number 7 seed no matter what, and we're banged up, should we just rest almost all of our starters and let the chips fall where they may in Minnesota just to get ready for the playoffs to be as healthy as possible? And yeah, overwhelmingly, 88% of the voters said yes, rest, go in healthy for the playoffs. But 12% said no, play to win the game.
I couldn't disagree more. There's absolutely no reason to risk anything. With as banged up as they are, they need to try to get as healthy as possible going into the wild card matchup. Spoiler alert for my first key to a victory in just a little bit. But we had some comments on these polls over the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook group. First off, Bill Gardner says it's got to be the lack of defense. This is in reference to your first question. He says they won't make it far in the playoffs if they can't figure it out. And then Dan Dyler says this one's hard. Our entire team is reeling due to injuries. However, I think we have great coaches who can maximize the players we do have to play at their best. There will be a lot of new names, and they'll get their chance to make an impact who may otherwise not see the field. This will help the depth of our bench. That's great for the future, but not so much now. At the same time, I don't want the team to back into the playoffs with a losing streak, but a winning streak starts with the first one. That's a solid point there. So thanks, Dan, for the comment. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, look at Dan Dyler with the silver lining of positivity. Apparently those green and rose gold glasses are working wonders for you, Dan. I appreciate it. Listeners, please go ahead and join us in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community. Be part of all the conversations. Again, it's at PackersCommunity.com, and be part of our live game chat section in the group during Sunday's Packers at Vikings matchup. This should have some interesting storylines, and I want to hear everybody's thoughts in the group as they unfold Sunday afternoon.
Absolutely. All right, time for some listener feedback. Be part of next week's episode on the show. We want your insights after watching the Packers or Vikings game. Let your voice be heard by doing one of two things. First, you could record your voice, attach to an email, and send to feedback@PackersFanPodcast.com. Or you can call the PFP voicemail at +1 920 3PACK-GO. Please be sure to send your thoughts into us by noon Central on Monday. Thank you so much, and go Pack Go.
Go, 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 Pack Go! Yes, I am going to bleed green and gold till I'm dead and cold. Man, oh man. That game versus the Ravens just absolutely just takes it out of you, especially 3 losses in a row. Just seeing the continuation of the injuries, alluding to Scott's keys to a Packer victory. Obviously, I think it was the third key. That didn't happen. There were five injuries in that game. And just to put that into context, we're down 5 players. So we were down from 53 down to 48 players on the active squad. And those additional 5 players that got injured during the game, like, you're down to 43 players. And to put that into context, that's 18.8% of your starting 53. Let that sink in for a little bit. I mean, the 5 players that went out during the game, 3 of them had to be taken off by cart, and one of them, Dontavian Wicks, out with a concussion. I don't know if they just overlooked the Ravens, since they secured the playoff spots or their playoff spot or what. The defense they weren't there, and I know they were talking about. I think there were 6 players on the injury report with a reported illness. And I don't know about you, but I've gone to work sick. I can tell you what, I did not perform probably at my best because I was feeling so terrible. But you still got to work. You still got to make make money to support your family and yourself. And I don't want that to sound like an excuse for what we saw, but that was probably the worst defensive performance I've ever seen our Packers put on TV, whether that was on national television or in the the 12 o'clock spot. Coaching didn't do very well. I don't know what Matt LaFleur was thinking going on it for 4th and inches on their own 35 and putting Malik Willis in the shotgun formation with Josh Jacobs, who only had 4 carries. Josh Jacobs did. That's just absolutely ridiculous. If he's not on the injury report, he needs to be much more involved. I know we were chasing points, but they knew exactly what the Ravens knew exactly what we were going to be doing. Overall, it just seemed like there was an absolute lack of urgency or effort, and the coaching staff just did not have their team ready for this game whatsoever. And I don't know if that has to do with injuries or the illness, but it just did not look good whatsoever. They weren't ready for the fight that the Ravens brought to Lambeau Field on Saturday night. Looking ahead to next Saturday or Sunday, whenever the NFL announces what day and time that the Packers will be playing, more than likely, I'm thinking it's going to be Sunday, a Sunday noon game. So, because there's no implications either way with the game, because the Packers are already in the playoffs, Minnesota Vikings can't do anything to secure their own playoff berth or anything like that. So it's kind of a meaningless game. So obviously the Packers are more than likely, of course, not good. This is gonna look like a preseason game, in my opinion. What I really hope to see is, since we're already in the playoffs, I want to see our Packers come in guns a-blazing and showing the opposite kind of effort they did against the Ravens on Saturday night. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but we'll see. I just want to see our Packers go out in the regular season on a good note and not just back into the playoffs, but go into the playoffs with at least a 1-game win and a little bit of momentum. More than likely, we're going to be facing the Bears in Chicago, and we can avenge our loss that we had there 2 weeks ago, or what will be 2 weeks ago. And, oh God, this is hard, but understand this is going against every fiber in my being, against every fiber in Captain Pack Sparrow's wants and wishes. But I have to pick a Minnesota win of 27-13. But as always, go, 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 Pack, go!
Go Pack, go indeed. Thanks so much, Dan. 18, almost 20% of our team is injured. It is just an insane stat.
Well, yeah, that's a bad percentage. But then if you take into account the percentage of just the starters, the offense and defensive starters, it's something like 26% or more.
It's just insane. Absolutely insane. Thanks for the shout out, Dan. I'm glad you're liking the keys to victory. I actually understand his mentality of wanting to go into with a win on this game. And I just don't think that should be the focus. I really don't. The playoffs are way more important than anything else. And I get the idea of momentum being there, but I think the mentality of treating the playoffs like a new season is going to put them in a better state of mind. Get them healthy and win.
Yeah. But if our backups and whoever's out there on the field, if they can at least play with urgency,
oh yeah,
would be a huge plus. That would be nice. And yeah, I can imagine what it's like going to work sick. I've done that a couple of times. I try not to do it, but trying to play NFL level football when sick, ooh, I'm going to pass. And yeah, although it seemed like almost nobody seemed to be really ready or focused to play, Malik Willis was ready to play.
Oh yeah, I mean he's just in audition mode at this point, because I think I mentioned it last week. He's going to get snatched up by somebody for a starting quarterback position next season.
Yeah,
I don't know how Green Bay is going to hang on to him, because he looked amazing. He looked legitimately awesome.
I do not want to lose him, but if he does have to go, please go to the AFC, or at least out of our division. Do not go to the Bears, Vikings, or Lions. Please, Malik, please. For Scott and I and all the listeners of the PFP.
Hey, Wing, Scott, Art from Texas. Well, I'm not going to be too hard on the guys, because I was thinking, considering all the injuries, Kraft, Parsons, Zach Tom, not having Watson for most of the season, and a bunch of other injuries I'm not even mentioning, despite all that, they're still going to the playoffs. Even as a 7th seed, but they're still going to the playoffs. It just makes you wonder how much higher of a seeding they could have gotten had they all been healthy. I'm thinking Super Bowl team if they were all healthy. I mean, I'm not counting them out yet, but I'm just saying how much more confident I would feel. The defense, I don't know what happened to them. I don't know if they weren't trying. Because maybe they just wanted to you know what, let's just get healthy. I have no idea. Yeah. Guys, Malik Willis, I don't know why. I mean, I know why, right? But I know this is not very popular, but I've just never been fully sold on Love. He's good. I mean, I like him, like I said, hopefully one day I'll just eat my words, but I've always felt more comfortable with Malik Willis as quarterback. I've just always felt more confident because he makes things happen. He extends the plays. He's a good scrambler. He showed he could pass last night. I mean, he wasn't healthy, but the bit that he was in there, like, my goodness. I mean, he's not going to be there next year, that's for sure. Hopefully, maybe we can get at least a first-round pick for him. Yeah, it is what it is. I think they should just, of course, rest up the next week and come back ready for the Bears in Chicago. And I feel pretty confident that we're going to beat them in Chicago. And that's it, guys. Go Pack, go. Green and gold. Go.
Go Pack, go indeed. Art in Texas, thank you so much for your call. And yeah, you really can't be too hard on most of the players with all these injuries. And I catch myself also doing the woulda, coulda, shoulda, what if we were at 100%? It would have been a beautiful thing. But I am glad that you're confident that if the Bears are who we play the first week of playoffs, that we will get our revenge in Chicago, and that will be a sweet moment indeed. What do you think, Scott, about being more sold on Malik Willis than
I think it's a bold statement to make, and I'm not going to lie, that's something that I've toyed with in my head. The problem is how much money they've paid Jordan Love. They're going to use him as much as possible, but I think to his point, that this game, or at least the wild card game when Love, I assume, is going to start playing again, is going to be his audition to be the starter. You know what I mean? If Malik Willis keeps showing him up, it's going to be something for them to think about. Again, I don't think they'll actually play Willis over him if Love is healthy, but it's kind of interesting to see, that two teammates that are kind of fighting for a spot. At least that's how I see it in my head. Maybe I'm completely off base, but yeah. What do you think?
At our family get-together, we were watching the game after one of the many Christmas events that happened, and I think it was my son-in-law that made a good point. If there was any way to work it out financially, and if the guys were agreeable to it, how about if we somehow kept Malik Willis and used him kind of like the Saints used Taysom Hill?
Okay.
Bring him in, do some Wildcat stuff to put in a 2-quarterback set. You never know what's going to happen.
I don't remember the last time that I've seen that used consistently in the NFL, but I like it. I mean, it's always been Green Bay's MO to like have their starting quarterback and having another quarterback in the hopper being groomed. I feel like the Packers do that better than anybody else. We've talked about that in the past, how other teams, not just the Bears, but they get a rookie and just throw him to the Wolves and expect him to be the next Drake May.
Mm-hmm.
It's just there needs to be more development. You're not going to always get lucky like the Patriots did. So yeah, interesting point.
Hey, this is David Newman over in San Antonio, Texas. Well, that stunk. Definitely not a great game by Green Bay, but I don't think I need to rehash. I'm sure you guys will talk about the few highs and all those lows that there was in the game. But I think just wanted to call and just remind everyone that while we might love our Green Bay Packers, it's okay. There is they get in the playoffs, which we can be thankful for that, and hopefully they can pull some sort of rabbit out of their hats and win a playoff game or two. It'll give us something to cheer about, and we're going to just keep cheering on your Packers. And like the boos that were at Lambeau Field tonight, don't like it when your team doesn't do very well in the first half, but you still don't go out and boo your team. And it's just a game, and we can all be thankful that we still are fans of still the greatest sports team in America, and my opinion, the world. All right, go Pack, go! Let's beat the Vikings next week.
Go Pack, go! Indeed, David. Thanks for the call in. David also does some writing for me over at the Gaming Outsider podcast. He's one of my guys. So shout out to him. I want to echo what David talked about. I was deeply disturbed by the Boo Birds at Lambeau Field. We are the Green Bay Packers and the Green Bay Packers fan base. We don't boo our team, no matter what is going on there. I was thoroughly embarrassed. We are not those teams that boo their own players. They need the support, especially at home. It almost made me angry because you never hear that at Lambeau, and it's frustrating. Yes, you support your team no matter what happens.
I will agree with those sentiments, and especially at home, and especially now that it turns out it was the last home game this season.
Yeah.
Because being the number 7 seed, there's no crazy math that I know of that is going to give us any sort of game at all till next season. That's just crazy. And just a game, yeah. And we should still be thankful that we're fans of the greatest sports team in America and possibly the world. That was well done, David. And again, thanks again for covering for me Thanksgiving week on the podcast. That was well done as well.
All right, moving on. Let's talk about some emails. Got one right here. It says, hey guys, Jared in Colorado. Look, I'm going to keep this short and blunt. My feedback this week is significantly less optimistic and less rosy. The Packers looked cooked. They have these last 3 weeks have been devastating in terms of industries. As for the loss tonight against the Ravens, the offense finally looks explosive, minus 2 bad drives in the first half, but the defense looked like loose stool consistency dog poo.
Oh boy.
If the Packers play like this in the playoffs, they're going to be done. And I unfortunately think they will lose in the wild card round. Looking ahead, Packers are more likely the 7th seed regardless of what happens. Might be best to continue resting Love along with our other starters and roll our backups out there against Minnesota to hopefully give our starters enough juice to change my mind in the playoffs. Green and gold till dead and cold. Go Pack Go, Jared in Colorado. P.S. Seriously, fire our strength and conditioning staff and stop running it out of the shotgun on 4th and short, LaFleur. P.P.S. How does our defense come out tonight with zero gameplay for the best player on their offense in Derrick Henry? Shame on Hafley and our defense. Very well said. Here's what I'm going to say about Jared's email is that, like, trying to find a silver lining, this is a case where the Packers' inconsistency might actually help us.
Oh, really?
They're not consistent with the offense and defense from week to week. So as long as we don't get this defense next week, we're going to be fine.
Oh, right? I see your point.
Yeah, they're not going to be the same thing. They're not the same team week in and week out. Now, I know they're banged up. That's going to be a big part of it, but I'm just trying to keep looking for some positive here.
Well, we appreciate the positivity. Absolutely. And we appreciate your email, Jared. It has been a rough 3 weeks. This is where things turn around, though. We turn it around and we play mostly backups in Minnesota. Hopefully come out with a victory because, you know, the other night, Minnesota's offense had something like a total of 3 passing yards the entire game.
Well, they had something like 58 passing yards, but because of the penalties and stuff, whatever, or what, you know, they lost so much on passing that it's just 3 net yards.
Okay.
And we lost the game. It's just insane to me. Just nuts.
Either way you look at it. So we should be able to beat them with whoever. So let's take a look at that game. Your 9-6-1 Green Bay Packers. They are playoff bound, but first they're going to be playing indoors against the 8-8 Vikings. Sunday, January 4th. They announced the game time just last night that it's going to be 12 noon Central. The Packers lead the series with the Vikings 67-60 and 3 ties. Ever since that 33-7 Packers victory on October 22nd, 1961, and then Green Bay went on to win 8 of the next 9 matchups against the Purple Ones under the coaching of legendary Vince Lombardi. Now, obviously, the Antonio Freeman "he did what" game is also legendary. Of course, the other "he did what" in my mind was Hall of Famer Brett Favre going to the division rival Vikings. The day it was announced that Brett was signing with the Vikes, I know I uttered "he did what" numerous times. And then the first meeting between Aaron Rodgers and the Packers and Brett Favre and the Vikings was in Minnesota, October 5th, 2009. It was the most watched cable television broadcast of all time, though that's hard to compare numbers today because what is technically cable TV these days? You know, potato.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's hard to justify things. But Favre and the Vikings got their revenge by winning that game 30-23. That was just an insane night. And this coming week, I hope our Packers get out to a fast 14 or more point lead. So, Scott, we can avoid hearing any more Viking horn blowing or ridiculous skull chants than absolutely necessary. In fact, the only skull clapping I want to see and hear is if the Pack get a huge dagger of a touchdown in the 4th quarter and several of our players go into the end zone in Minnesota and do the skull right in their end zone like they did in the earlier meeting at Lambeau Field.
I've got a memory as well, too. It's not necessarily a positive one, but it's one that definitely sticks out.
Oh, boy.
Back in January 19th of 2025, I'm obviously not a fan of other teams in our division, but I never really hated Minnesota. That is until Randy Moss decided to pretend to moon the Packers fans after scoring a touchdown. If you remember that game, even Joe Buck called it a disgusting act, which has kind of like been a line. What a classless thing to do. Just man. From then on, I've just had a completely different mentality with the Vikings than I did growing up.
That sounds good. So no matter who we play or who the Vikings play, what do the people wearing the Green Bay Packers uniforms have to do to get a victory over the Vikings this week, Scott?
Well, strategy number 1 is going to be a controversial statement, although some of our players or some of our listeners actually agree with me. So don't worry about the win. I have a bold statement. I think winning the game is not important. This game should be about preparing for the postseason, resting starters, and trying to get healed up for the wild card round. Would I prefer a win over the Vikings? Absolutely. but this game doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. The playoffs are what matters. So don't sweat it. Get healthy. But strategy number 2, protect an early lead. With all that said, it's my responsibility to come up with strategies for actually winning this game. If that's going to happen, the Packers have to do something they've struggled with this season, scoring first and keeping the lead. For this game to be successful, they need to be in a position where they're protecting a lead instead of chasing one. It's all about psychology, and that would not only help win this game, but also get them into the proper mindset for the playoffs. Lastly, capitalize on rookie mistakes. Look, J.J. McCarthy hasn't had a great season. I think I've seen a lot of splash screens saying that he's the worst starting quarterback in the league this year. And the Packers should take advantage of the situation. Secondary coverage is going to be key here. The longer they keep the receivers occupied, the more time McCarthy will be vulnerable in the pocket. I'm thinking lots of sacks and possibly turnovers from fumbles. Green Bay has the advantage despite the injuries and defensive issues, and it's time they start looking like it. There you go.
Awesome. So instead of Scott's keys to victory, Scott's keys to an injury-free, relaxing game. Just go out there and have fun.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, on to our 2025 season wager of fun. The needle hasn't moved a whole lot the last 3 weeks, unfortunately. The final score was 24-41 in favor of the Baltimore Ravens.
Oofda. So,
Wayne, neither you or I got any points, and in fact, none of the listeners got points as well. So the standings stay the same once again. You and I are tied at 4-4 with 2 ties. And let's see, Jay Walters is still solid in first place with 3 wins, but Dan Dyler is right behind him with 2.5 wins. So we've got at least 2 more games for the tides to change. And with that, let's go ahead and talk about our predictions for the Packers at Vikings game. Wayne, you're not going to like this, but I'm with Dan Dyler. I am marking this game as a loss because I think the Packers are going to go into this with the mentality that I talked about, that they don't need to win this, that they need to rest. They're going to be playing a lot of second starters. And the Vikings are just going to, even though they don't need it, they're already out of the playoffs. They're just going to want to make a statement here. So I'm going to say Minnesota 24, Green Bay 17.
All right. And Scott and the listeners, you're not going to like this. I think we're going to lose this game. I think it's going to be far lower scoring, though. I think at the most we're going to get 14 points, and at the most Minnesota's going to get 19.
Oh, my goodness. You picked a loss? Oh. This just got interesting.
I've got clarity after Christmas, I guess. I don't know.
So what's your score prediction?
19-14.
19-14. All right. Well, you and I are not alone. Dan already mentioned his pick of 27-13 in favor of the Vikings, but as of right now, only 2 other people have got their picks in, and both of them are predicting a Packers win. Garrett Stritzel says Green Bay 27, Minnesota 21, and Thomas Carlson says Green Bay 21, Minnesota 10. So, it's going to be an interesting week for sure. You still have time to get your final score guess noted by posting in the comments in the Facebook group, Wager O Fun thread post. We hope to hear from you very soon.
Yes, and one last look at the NFC North as far as standings. The Bears are 11-5. They host Detroit. It might matter to their seeding, and Detroit will probably want to make a statement after getting embarrassed the other day. We're at Minnesota. The Lions are 8-8. Again, they're going to Chicago. So the game is in Chicago. So I don't know, Lions. That's going to be interesting. And the Vikings are 8-8 hosting Green Bay. So that's going to pretty much wrap up the NFC North till the playoffs. Did anything else around the NFL catch your eye after you're able to clear away the tears from the Packers game and see games clearly?
You know, I mentioned him earlier, but can we talk about Drake May's performance? Because holy cow, this guy. He's a rookie, by the way. Rookie quarterback. He went 19 for 21 with 5 touchdowns on Sunday. Granted, They're playing the Jets. So
okay. That's a good asterisk right there.
But you still look at his stats for the rest of the season. His completion percentage is the highest in the league with 71.1%. He has the highest average per pass attempt, 8.9. Now, keep in mind, that's including passes that were not made. So, like, even if a pass was not made, that counts as a 0. And his average is still 8.9 yards per pass attempt. On top of that, he has the highest average passer rating this season at 112.9. For a rookie quarterback to be in the running for MVP over like the likes of Josh Allen is just absolutely insane to me. Like, way to go. I I have him in our fantasy football league, and thanks to him, I've secured my spot at 7.
Really?
For I think I'm when there's a game tonight that is going to be the deciding factor, but I got a pretty good lead, so solid 7th place, which is a lot better than where I ended up within the standings this year. But yeah, Drake May, what a quarterback, insane.
Quite a story. It'll be interesting to see how the playoffs shake out, and it's interesting that most everything is locked in on the AFC and the NFC, except for next week. Since the Steelers lost, Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers going up against their division rival Ravens. Whoever wins the division, goes to the playoffs, and whoever loses. So it's already a playoff game. And the same in the NFC between the Buccaneers and the Panthers. Whoever wins the division and is in, and whoever loses doesn't. So those will be the games that'll probably flex to the game of the week and the night game and all that stuff.
Right.
The other thing that stood out, I can't believe I watched this entire game. The Niners versus the Bears. The Niners beat the Bears. And I thought the Bears were supposed to have this top tier defense. And granted, the Bears defense did get a pick 6 on the very first offensive play by the Niners. So I thought, oh, maybe they do. But for the rest of the game, neither the Bears nor the Niners really had much defense to speak of. Both quarterbacks had an insane amount of time to throw the ball, which accounted for both teams racking up a ton of points. So if you love offense, great. But if you'd like to actually see some pressure on the quarterback, this was not the game for you. And, for many, many years, everybody knows how much I despise the 49ers. But if the Packers would have won and we had a chance still to get the division, I was going to be rooting for the Bears to lose. But I can't even admit. Okay, I'll admit it. I was actually rooting for the Bears to win this game because of how much I hate the 49ers and how much I know that the Bears are going to get shellacked the first week or two in the playoffs.
I think you're probably right, but I did not get to watch this game live. I was actually in enemy territory last night. I was in downtown Chicago seeing a concert, and the first band, 2 of the players came in with Bears stuff on and started saying disparaging things about the green and gold, and I had to keep my mouth shut for fear of getting shanked. But
well, that's motivation right there, Scott.
I was this close because I had the game on the final. When I saw that the game was really close and it was coming down to the wire, I actually pulled up and watched the game on my phone. I was on the rail, by the way.
Okay.
So I didn't want everyone to see where I was, so I kind of put my hand over the rail just to watch that final play of the game, and it took everything in my power after that was done to just start singing, the Bears still suck really loud. But again, I didn't want to get killed, so I kept it to myself. But
I'm glad you made it out alive so you could record the podcast today.
Yeah. When they started saying stuff about Packers, my buddies standing behind me were like slapping me on the back and laughing at me. And I just was like, I'm keeping my head down, guys. I'm keeping my head down. But all right. Want to remind you guys one last time in this regular season about my other podcast, The Gaming Outsider. We are taking a break for a couple weeks so that we can enjoy the holidays a bit, but we are going to be doing some recap episodes, and this week is no different. So we took a couple of our favorite from the outside in topics from episodes in 2025. This week, we did a topic where we're talking about playing difficult games and whether or not it's worth your time. What's more important, quality of life or playing difficult games that challenge you? And then we also talked about urban legends in video games, some things that we grew up talking about on the playground with our friends and which ones were real, which ones were made up. It's a lot of fun. So you can hear my show at the same places you listen to this one, or you can check out our website at thegamingoutsider.com. And I'm going to tell you, I have been fervishly the last week or so getting reviews posted. You may not know this, but we post video game reviews on our website, and we're trying to get as many as we can before the year end. We just yesterday posted our 115th video game review on our website, which may not sound like a lot, but for a team that is not getting paid to do it, is pretty impressive that we were able to put out that many reviews, and we still have about 20 pending. So please check them out. We put a lot of work into writing those reviews. So if there's any video games you're interested in, check out what reviews we've got posted, and you can learn about them on there.
Well done, Scott. Now, an urban legend in a video game, I know you don't want to spoil the podcast episode, but can you give me an example? I can't even fathom an urban legend being around a video game.
I mean, there were urban legends when you were a kid. You would hear things like the biggest urban legend that I grew up with was, if you remember, there was a game on the Atari 2600 based on the movie E.T., the extraterrestrial.
Okay.
And the rumor when I was a kid was that the game was so colossally bad, nobody liked it, that Atari took all of the extra copies and went and buried them in a landfill, in the desert, because they had nothing, they couldn't sell them and they had nothing to do with it. So it was like, it was this thing we always talked about on the playground. It was like this rumor, this urban legend. Come to find out, about, I don't know, 5 to 10 years ago, a documentary came out where this team came out and actually went to the Alamogordo desert to dig it up to see if this was true. And guess what?
What?
It was 100% true. I actually have in my possession, in my collection, a game that was buried in the desert that Atari had thrown away because they could not sell these games. So,
okay,
urban legends, things that are just you heard rumors about, or everybody talked about, really didn't really believe it, but talked about it like they were true. There was lots of things buried in video games, like, oh, if you do this certain thing on this certain level, it'll make this appear. You know what I mean? Like, there's all these kinds of things where kids were making up stories to try to get their friends to go home and find these things, or be able to say, well, I found it. You must not be a real good gamer if you weren't able to find it yourself. So it was a superiority thing, and it was a lot of fun.
Roger that. And I'm sure when you purchased that legendary game, you really had to blow the dust out of it.
Oh, totally. I mean, that's a thing, although that does hurt the game itself. So don't blow on your Nintendo cartridges, just saying. Thank you for all of your support of the PFP all season long, as well as during the off season. Thank you so much, and Go Pack Go's Jay Walters, for your Bart Star level patronage. We do appreciate it. Thank you, and Go Pack Go, for being a Jordan Love level supporter, Mr. Dan Dyler.
And cheers to our Brett Favre level supporters, and thank you, and Go Pack Go, Miguel Ramirez, Megan, and Scott Boers. And wrap it up with Go Pack Go's and thank yous for their Lambo level patronage, Brett Connor, Hank Davis from the Free Podcast Tools YouTube channel, and Joe Christensen. Check out all the details on ways you can support at PackersFanPodcast.com/giveback.
The Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast is not affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers, but do us a favor, tell a friend about the PFP. You are our best source of marketing, and we would love it if you did so.
And follow us on X. We are at Packers Fan Pod. Scott is at GoCast Scott. The podcast, The Gaming Outsider, is at The GoCast. I'm at Wayne Henderson. And along with Happy New Year's, here's our PFP community members, Joe Christensen, Megan, Andre in LA, and Dan Dyler with their outro and Go Pack Go that'll keep the Packers en route to Minnesota.
Go Pack Go!
Go Pack Go!